according to the news released by NES. Sun CG Flip. The solar maximum has arrived. We are about to experience the strongest performance in 500 years. Big geomagnetic storm, May 1st, 2024. A seemingly ordinary sunspot appear at the eastern edge of the sun. At first, he was not special, just one of the many sunspots that come and go. But as the days go by, this sunspot is growing at an incredible rate. Expanded to 17 times larger than the Earth itself, scientists have labeled it as an active area. He soon lived up to his name. This giant sunspot unleashes violent sunspots. Some of them are very powerful. Triggers the solar corona directly aimed at Earth. Mass ejection. The results were the brightest on record. One of the aurora displays of the eye. Vibrant light spreads all over the world. Extend to places where they have never been seen before. According to NICE observations, this is the most powerful geomagnetic storm in 500 years. It even shook observatories deep underground. The sun follows a powerful solar storm in May. Didn't calm down. Instead, continued to release drug partners of grades M and X. Keep space weather experts on high alert. Then on October 3rd, he released a huge X9.0 stain. This is the strongest one in 7 years from the center of his disk. Less than a week, a powerful geomagnetic storm attacked the Earth in places that are not used to displaying like this. Light up the sky, parallel disturbance, disrupted radio communications in some parts of the world. All of this points to one thing, the arrival of the solar maximum. Now NAS has officially confirmed. The sun's magnetic field has flipped. The solar maximum has arrived. So, the maximum solar activity will affect our planet. What impact will it have in the coming months? This increase in solar activity, how long will the strong period last? Last but not least, will this increase the global average temperature? Let our planet warm up in the coming year. The sun appears as a bright constant source of light, but it is far from stable. Approximately every 11 years, he will experience a period called the solar cycle, dramatic change of time. This week, it affects our planet in many ways. Activities involving the sun, females even change in appearance. The discovery of the solar cycle can be traced back, dating back to the late 18th century, when astronomers were observing sunspots. And I noticed something odd. Dark spots on the surface of the sun. Astronomers realized that they didn't just happen by chance, but over time. It shows a pattern of growth and decline. Observations reveal the number of sunspots every 11 years, increase and decrease. Once scientists finally combined this cycle, it's called the solar cycle. After this discovery, astronomers began to pay close attention to this phenomenon. For a long time, they only do it by looking at the sun, the behavior of sunspots to record solar activity. But with the advance of technology, they noticed that two more things change during the solar cycle. The first is the magnetic field of the sun. Our sun, it's a giant ball of charged gas. His magnetic field is constantly changing. Astronomers have discovered the magnetic field of each sun. It will go through an end in the cycle, acute reversal of the whole. This means that the North Pole of the sun becomes the South Pole. Antarctica becomes North Pole. Acute reversal. It occurs near the peak of solar activity, marks the end of a cycle. Another with the solar cycle. The solar aspect of period change is its overall activity, including sun peak, medication spots, and daily substance ejections. These activities are reflected in solar activity. The highest point is reached when the maximum value is reached. It reaches its lowest point during the minimum solar activity. Due to these findings, now monitoring the solar cycle involves observing solar activity and acute reversals. It's not just counting sunspots. Since the first discovery of the solar cycle, astronomers have tracked each cycle. They were assigned numbers. We are currently in solar cycle 25. But the first 24 cycles all have unique characteristics. Although most cycles follow the expected pattern, that is, as the number of sunspots increases and reach the maximum, then enter a quiet minimum. But there were two curious periods in history we still can't explain. The first unexplained period is the minimum value of M between 1645 and 1715, period of extremely low solar activity. In these 70 years, sunspots are almost non-existent. Astronomers throughout the period, only about 50 sunspots were observed. In comparison, the number that usually occurs in a single cycle, 1,000 sunspots, this extended solar minimum, coincided with the period known as the Little Ice Age. At that time, parts of the world have experienced better than average colder temperature, a river that rarely freezes, as the Thames in London freezes over. Europe is facing a severe winter after the minimum value, Dalton minimum, from about 1790 to 1830, although not as extreme. But this period was also below average horizontal solar activity, like the minimum. Dalton minimum coincides with a phase of colder global temperatures. 1815, major volcanic eruptions such as the Mount Tambora eruption. It also contributes to global cooling. Created the flawless year of 1816. There were widespread crop failures and food shortages. Influenced Europe and North America. Solar cycle 24 began in 2008. Particularly weak sunspot count and solar activity, well below average. Make it become. Go to one of the least active cycles in a century. Scientists were surprised by its low intensity because of his solar spots and solar immunity ejections, less than expected. This quiet cycle triggered about changes in solar activity, the problem of cause, and the future. Will a large minimum similar to the minimum occur? Value. When the current solar cycle began in December 2019, it is predicted that it will be weaker than the previous cycle, but we were wrong. The 25th solar cycle exceeded all expectations. In August 2024, average, the daily number of sunspots may have reached 299, more than twice the expected value. This level has not been observed in more than 20 years. A fascinating turn in the current solar cycle. His peak came earlier than scientists had expected. When the cycle started in December 2019, the forecast target is to reach a peak by July 2025. There are about 5 sunspots, but by January 2024, NOAA's space weather forecast set adjusts forecasts. Peak expected now. The value will be between January and October 2024. It is estimated that there are between 137 and 173 sunspots. On October 15th, NASA confirmed the solar maximum has officially begun. However, NASA's announcement doesn't mean that we will. The highest level of solar activity seen. Although the sun has entered a period of maximum solar activity, but determining the peak of activity will take time. Scientists need to track for months, even years of solar activity to confirm the true peak. And this can only happen after a sustained decline has been observed. It is worth noting that the past 2 years have shown an increase in activity. Ordinary sun. Sunspots mark this active phase. Scientists now expect the sun will remain at its maximum for about a year. And here we go, gradually slide down to a place called the mid-term of the solar minimum. This means that the next few months will be. The key is that we can expect strict, heavy geomagnetic storms and spectacular aurora displays. Many powerful solar storms have been recorded in history, have a lasting impact on the planet. Carrington event. It is the most famous and most powerful on record. Violent solar storm. It took place on September 1st and 2, 1859. At that time, British astronomer Richard Carlin, Dayton observed a huge sun patch. A few hours later, Japan-Burma mass ejection hits the Earth, unleashes a powerful geomagnetic storm. Telegraph systems malfunctioned in Europe and North America. Some telegraph operators reported receiving motors, while others observe their machines are even on batteries. In the case of disconnection, can also work, driven only by electrical currents caused by storms. Aurora display extends to the Caribbean. Light up the night sky, enough for people to read newspapers outdoors. According to NOAA, Rocky Mountains gold miners wake up and make coffee. Fried eggs. Thought the sun had risen on a cloudy morning. American Telegraph between Boston and Portland. The two operators of the line can operate without power. In the case of pool power, communication for 2 hours. It only works with the electric current caused by the aurora. In their communication, they even commented that communication is clearer than when the battery is in use. Then, in May 1921, the famous New York Railroad storm attacked our planet. This is the most powerful geomagnetic storm of the previous century, although there were no satellite systems at the time. But he's still concerned about the planet's electrical infrastructure, caused serious damage, especially the storm. In New York, fire broke out at a train station in Brewster, NY, disrupted railroads and roads in the Northeast United States. Signal system. August 1972, a powerful solar storm on Apollo 16 and Apollo hit between the moon landing mission on the 17th. This solar event is very intense. If the astronauts were in space, they will receive a lethal dose of radiation. He is still in Vietnam. The sea triggered an unexplained mine explosion. The intense magnetic activity triggered the mine sensors. Then, in March 1989, a powerful solar storm, bringing down the planet's modern power infrastructure. In Quebec, Canada, the storm caused massive power outages. 6 million without power for more than 9 hours. The power grid collapsed very badly, causing voltage instability and transformer damage in North America. This incident, highlighting the vulnerability of power grids to solar activity. And in energy, new protective measures have been introduced into the system. As recently as early 2022, a spot of sun, powerful enough to cause a fourth storm, resulting in the loss of 40 newly launched Starlink satellites. Today, our company will rely heavily on satellites and various needs for stability, technology that works in a magnetic field environment. This dependency make us more susceptible to significant the influence of solar activity. Any disruption could result in unpredictable economic losses and threaten the lives that depend on these systems. Now we come to a key question. Does solar activity contribute to increasing the temperature of the Earth? And that leads to global warming. During solar maximum activity, total solar radiation, and a slight increase in the solar energy reaching the Earth. This could cause small fluctuations in the Earth's climate. However, these changes are relatively minor. Limited impact on global temperatures. This chart shows solar activity and Earth's temperature, the relationship between. Until the end of the 20th century, the solar energy received by the Earth following the nature of the sun. Small fluctuations in the 11-year cycle. No net increase since the 1950s. During the same period, global temperatures have risen significantly. Shows that the sun is not the past half-life. Global warming observed in the 21st century. The main drivers of trends. High solar activity. It could affect the space exploration missions of various countries. Any space exploration mission should avoid the sun. Launch near storm. And that's because of the high energy particles in these storms, the dangers posed by children to sensitive electronic equipment, and the risk of disrupting radio communications. This could enable communication with the spacecraft. It becomes difficult. It's not even possible. But the friendly side of all this solar activity. During periods of intense solar activity, the sun's magnetic field effectively protects the Earth, extreme satellite, from the universe beyond our solar system. The influence of radiation. This means that high solar activity provides additional protection, makes satellites less susceptible to these particles. Possible long-term damage caused by children. Solar maximum period. One of the most exciting things. It's the possibility of seeing the aurora. When the Burmese mass ejection collides with the Earth's magnetic field, will set off a fascinating chain of events. As the storm approaches the Earth's magnetic field is like a shield, deflecting most of the charged particles. But the magnetic fields of the Earth and solar storms can be connected. It forms a funnel. A little bit of gas flows to the poles of the Earth. This results in the rare daylight aurora. As the storm continues, the magnetic field stretches further back. It's like a rubber band until he breaks, tracing gas along magnetic field lines, flowing towards the Earth's nocturnal poles. This results in a breathtaking nighttime aurora show. These color changes are due to the type of particle and the altitude at which they interact. When the sun grains, the child is exposed to oxygen at an altitude of 100,300 kilometers. When gas collides, there will be green auroras. At the same time, the rare red aurora we witnessed in May, its particles with oxygen at higher altitudes, and the interaction between 300 and 400 kilometers is generated. To make these red auroras visible to the naked eye, they must be at least 10 times brighter than the green aurora. Make them a truly spectacular sight. The sun that we live on changes from time to time. Remind us of the necessity of human scientific progress. If the sun starts to kill the Earth, the ability to live, there will be a realistic version of the Wandering Earth project. Save the Earth. Welcome to the channel to leave a comment for discussion.